She was laughing when I walked in. Not the kind of laugh you give a stranger. Not polite. Not stiff. No, this was full-bodied, head tilted, wine glass clinking laughter. But now it was spilling out of her, across a dimly lit booth at the back of Arlo's bar, where the light hit just enough to reflect the shimmer in her eyes. Not for me, but for the man sitting across from her, leaning in like the whole world had melted away except the space between their knees. Her fingers were tracing the rim of her glass in slow, teasing circles. I'd seen that move before. I used to think it was just a habit. But now I know. It's a signal. It's a cue. A preview of how she reels them in. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. I didn't even step forward. Not yet. I stood by the coat rack like some lost idiot, gripping a to-go bag with 2 burgers and a side of fries. She'd texted me she was craving less than 20 minutes ago. She said she was starving and exhausted. I'd said I'd pick something up on the way home. She said, "You're the best," with a heart emoji. The audacity. But here she was. In heels. In makeup. In that emerald blouse she said was too tight after the holidays. Sitting with a man whose hand was already on hers. I couldn't hear what they were saying. But her body said enough. She wasn't flinching. She wasn't uncomfortable. She wasn't resisting. She was performing. For him. I reached into my coat pocket and felt the ring. My wedding ring. Still warm. Still tight on my finger from earlier, before I'd taken it off in the car and held it like it was burning a hole through my skin. I moved toward the table. Slow. Deliberate. Like a man walking through wet cement. She didn't notice me until I was right there, standing beside their booth. Her hand froze mid-laugh. Her eyes locked onto mine. And then the panic started to bloom. I didn't yell. I didn't throw the bag. I didn't say her name. I just held out my hand, palm open. Let her see the ring. Let her feel the weight of what she'd broken. Then I dropped it on the table. It didn't make a sound, not the kind you'd expect. Just a dull little clink that somehow echoed louder than a gunshot. Her date looked up, confused. She whispered, "Wait, Nathan, please." But I was already turning. Already walking away. Already knowing this wasn't the end. Not even close. The burger bag was still in my hand when I reached the parking lot, but I didn't remember bringing it with me. My fingers were cramped around the greasy paper like I'd been holding a grenade I forgot to throw. I stood next to my car, engine still ticking from the drive, and just stared at that bag like it had answers. It didn't. Just 2 burgers, one plain, one with extra pickles, her favorite, and a cold reminder that I was the idiot delivering dinner to a woman warming someone else's hands. I don't know why I turned around. Maybe I expected her to come after me. Maybe I hoped she'd rush out of the bar, barefoot in panic, clutching the ring to her chest, sobbing in apology. That's the kind of pathetic movie scene that plays in your head when you still want to believe it was all a misunderstanding. But the door didn't open. The seconds stretched. The wind picked up, and I realized she hadn't moved. She stayed with him. My phone buzzed. I almost didn't look. It was her. "Where are you?" I let out a short laugh, the kind that sounds more like a wheeze than joy. Where am I? Standing in a parking lot, watching my marriage suffocate inside a booth while she sips wine and plays footsie. That's where I was. Another buzz. "Can we talk?" Talk. Talk about what? About how she lied about working late again. About how she texted me she missed me while she was holding another man's hand. Or maybe about how casual she looked, like it wasn't even her first time. No, we weren't going to talk. Not then. I drove. No direction, just streets. I passed our neighborhood, our street, our house with the stupid garden gnome she insisted we buy from that overpriced antique store. I didn't go home. I couldn't walk through that door and pretend it was still a home. Instead, I drove to my brother Craig's house. He wasn't home. His wife opened the door and blinked like I'd come to deliver a pizza. I just handed her the burger bag without saying anything and walked to their spare room. The couch in there still smelled like their dog and someone's leftover cologne, but it was better than the scent of betrayal. I sat in the dark, phone in hand, watching the screen light up again. 10 missed calls. 12 texts. No apologies, though. Just, "Come back. Let's talk." This isn't what it looked like. Except it was. It was exactly what it looked like. At 2:07 a.m., I finally opened one of the messages. The one that said, "Please. I didn't plan this." And that was the moment I realized something terrifying. She didn't say she was sorry. She didn't say she loved me. She didn't even deny it. She just said she didn't plan it. Like that made it better. Like that erased the way she looked at him. And as I lay there on that lumpy couch, ringless, sleepless, and spinning in the dark, one thought wouldn't leave me alone. What if this wasn't the first time? I didn't sleep that night. Not even a little. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face at the bar, lit up, alive, glowing for a man who wasn't me. And the worst part? She never looked that way around me anymore. Maybe not for years. I kept thinking back to her reaction. Not fear. Not guilt. It was something else, like she'd been caught off script. Like I had ruined the night, not the other way around. Around 6 a.m., I finally dragged myself off the couch. Craig's wife had left a blanket over me at some point, and there was a glass of water on the side table. I ignored both. I picked up my phone again, 15 missed calls now. A few texts too. Some of them were generic. I need to explain, you didn't give me a chance. We shouldn't end like this. But still, not once did she say the word sorry. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop. I knew I was doing exactly what I swore I wouldn't become. That guy, the paranoid husband digging through his own marriage like it was a crime scene. But I had to know. I couldn't go on just assuming anymore. I logged into our shared cloud account. She didn't know I still had access. We used to back up vacation photos there. Old memories, forgotten birthdays, a honeymoon that now felt like a prank. But that morning, what I found wasn't beach selfies or candids. It was worse. Way worse. Dozens of photos. Her. In that same green blouse. Same earrings. Same nail color. In different restaurants. Different bars. Always with him. Different days. Different angles. Same man. I don't know why she saved them. Maybe she wanted to remember the thrill. Maybe she thought she had time to delete them later. Maybe part of her wanted to get caught. But there they were. Smiling. Laughing. Her hand on his thigh. Him kissing her cheek. One picture showed them holding hands at some rooftop bar, the city lights behind them, and her wedding ring was off. Gone. She'd taken it off, while still pretending she was coming home to me. My stomach knotted up so bad I thought I might actually throw up. I slammed the laptop shut and just sat there, shaking. I wasn't even angry yet. Not fully. I was just humiliated. I had been building a life with someone who had clearly moved on without telling me. Then I noticed something. A receipt. Tucked between the cushions of the couch, folded and torn, probably from my pocket. I unfolded it slowly. It was from a boutique hotel downtown. One I didn't recognize. Paid in cash. Last Thursday. Last Thursday, she said she had a client dinner that went long. I stared at the date. Then at the name listed on the booking. It wasn't hers. It wasn't mine either. But it was familiar. It was the same name that had tagged her on an Instagram post last month. A private account. One I suddenly had every reason to find. I didn't know what I was doing. I don't mean that metaphorically. I literally didn't have a plan. I just sat there, hunched over my laptop like some twitchy gremlin, staring at that Instagram handle written on the hotel receipt. It was burned into my brain. I had seen it once before, in a tag on a blurry photo of wine glasses and dim lighting. Carla had shrugged it off, said it was a co-worker's birthday, and the guy didn't even work in her department. She said she barely knew him. Said I was being paranoid. Said I should trust her. That was 2 weeks ago. I clicked on the profile. Private. Just a name and a smug little bio. Creating moments. No regrets. No regrets. Of course. No photos. No posts. No tagged images. Until I realized I was looking at the wrong account. The real trail was hidden. I searched for the rooftop bar from the photo I'd found earlier. The bar had its own page. Tagged photos. And sure enough, there it was them. Her and the same guy. Not one, but 3 separate posts from the same night. Someone else had posted the pics, probably drunk and proud of how cute their friends looked. One of the captions read, "When the office romance stops being a rumor eyes." My mouth actually went dry. Not just because of what it said, because of who posted it. Lana, Carla's friend. Her coworker. The one who always played innocent, always grinned at me like she pitied me. The one Carla swore was happily single and not into drama. The same Lana who helped Carla plan my birthday party last year. The betrayal wasn't quiet. It was loud, public, and apparently hilarious to everyone except me. I screenshotted everything. Not because I had a plan, but because I needed evidence that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't inventing this narrative in my head, that I wasn't just a jealous husband digging for drama where there was none. The worst part? Everyone in those photos knew but me. My wife. Her friend. Her new what? Boyfriend. The whole office probably knew. I bet they laughed when I sent her flowers to work for our anniversary. I bet they saw her throw them in the trash after taking a picture for social media. And yet, she kept calling. I finally answered. Silence for a second. Then her voice, soft, shaking. Where are you? I didn't answer. She tried again. I messed up, Nathan. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. That phrase again. I didn't mean for it. As if this was all some unavoidable accident. As if she tripped and landed in a secret relationship. My voice cracked when I spoke. How long? She went quiet. So I repeated it. Louder. How long has this been going on? Finally, she whispered. About 4 months. 4 months. 4 months of pretending. Of crawling into my bed, kissing my forehead, texting me love you with a heart, while someone else held her in the dark. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the phone. I just said, you could have left. Her response? I didn't want to hurt you. I let out a laugh, so bitter it startled even me. Because what could possibly hurt more than this? She asked, can we please talk? Face to face? And for some reason, I said yes. Not to hear her out. Not for closure. But because if she was going to lie to me again, I wanted to watch her do it in person. I didn't pick a neutral place. I told her to meet me at our house. Our house. I don't know why, but something in me wanted her to walk through that door and feel the weight of what she'd burned to the ground. I wanted her to smell the same lavender candle she lit when we used to binge shows together. I wanted her to sit on the same couch where we made promises during thunderstorms. I wanted to look her in the eyes and see if even a flicker of guilt lived behind them. Spoiler alert, it didn't. She showed up wearing that same emerald blouse from the bar. I don't know if she was testing me or if she genuinely didn't care. Her hair was curled. Her makeup was light but perfect. Lip gloss, mascara, little gold earrings I got her for our 5th anniversary. She looked like she was going to brunch with someone she wanted to impress, not facing the man whose soul she just torched. She stepped inside slowly, as if the air had changed. It had. I didn't say anything at first. Just stood by the kitchen island, arms crossed, watching her look around like she was seeing our home for the first time. She walked into the living room, touched the back of the couch, like she was trying to make sure it was real. I didn't think you'd want to see me, she said quietly. I don't, I answered. She flinched, like the truth was something sharp. I waited for her to start talking. She didn't. So I laid the evidence out, literally. I had printed the screenshots, the photos from the cloud, the bar pictures, the hotel receipt. I didn't scream. I didn't accuse. I just placed them on the coffee table, one after another, like cards in a losing game. She didn't look surprised. Not once. She sat down and stared at the pile like it was overdue paperwork. I was going to end it, she said. Before you saw us. That night was supposed to be the last time. That's convenient, I muttered. It's the truth. Then why didn't you tell me? She didn't answer. Instead, she looked at me with those wide, wet eyes. Like she was about to perform sadness, and I was supposed to clap for it. She reached for my hand. I pulled it away. I need you to understand, she whispered. He made me feel seen. I laughed. That was the line. He made me feel seen. As if I hadn't been looking at her every damn day, trying to find a version of her that still loved me. As if I hadn't bent myself into knots to be enough. I walked over to the hallway and opened the drawer where I kept my watch, old receipts, and her first letter to me back in college. The letter where she said I was her always. I held it up. Did he see this? I asked. Did you read this to him while he held your hand? Her eyes dropped. She didn't speak. Tell me, Carla, when you kissed him, did you think of me at all? No, she whispered. That single word hit harder than every lie combined. I nodded. At least that's honest. She stood then, reached into her purse. For a second, I thought she was going to hand me divorce papers. Instead, she pulled out her wedding ring. I brought it, she said softly. Just in case. In case what? In case you wanted to start over. That nearly broke me. Because a small part of me, despite everything, still wanted to. I wanted to forget what I saw, what I knew. I wanted to pretend we were still us. But I couldn't. Because she didn't just break the marriage. She replaced it. I walked to her, opened her hand, and closed her fingers around the ring. You keep it, I said. You'll need something to remember what you gave up. She started to cry. I didn't. I just walked upstairs and closed the bedroom door behind me. She stayed downstairs for almost an hour. Then she left. And she hasn't stepped back in since. 3 days passed. She didn't come back. Not to grab a toothbrush, not to beg again. Not even to collect her stupid crystal owl collection from the bookshelf she forced into every room like it was sacred. I expected texts, tears, maybe even some grand gesture, like those public apology videos people post online when they realize the person they betrayed actually left. But there was nothing, just silence. And in that silence, something in me started to shift. I wasn't healing. Let's not pretend this is some miracle transformation. I was still broken, still barely eating, still waking up at 3 a.m., with flashbacks of her eyes locking on mine at that bar. But I was also unraveling something. Unfreezing. My brain wasn't spinning in circles anymore. It was tracking straight. It started asking better questions. Like, who else knew? And how deep does this go? So I did something I never thought I'd do. I called her sister. Leah and I were never exactly close. She always thought I was too soft, too passive, too eager to please. Her words, not mine. But she also loved Carla. Worshipped her, actually. So when I told her everything, I expected denial. Accusations. Screaming. Instead, she just sighed. I wondered how long it would take, she said flatly. That sentence sat in my ear like a nail. What do you mean? She got bored, Nathan. It's what she does. And she's too selfish to leave unless she has a backup. You knew she was cheating? No. But I knew she would. Eventually. There was no malice in her voice. Just disappointment. Not in me. In Carla. I thanked her and hung up, then sat on the couch, staring at a photo on the wall. The three of us at a New Year's party 2 years ago. Carla in the middle, smiling. Me kissing her cheek. Leah grinning like she already knew the truth. That night, Craig invited me to dinner. Just him, his wife, and 2 friends from work. I almost said no. I didn't want to pretend I was okay. I didn't want to talk about sports or taxes or whatever else men pretend to care about when their lives are falling apart. But I went. Because sitting in that house was starting to feel like sitting inside a crime scene. We ate at this quiet place in town. One of those fancy rustic places with overpriced steak and waiters who introduce themselves like you're supposed to remember their name. And then, out of nowhere, I saw him. The guy. Him. The one from the bar. He walked in like he owned the air. Blue button-up. Perfect posture. Same smug smile. But this time, he wasn't with Carla. He was with another woman. Not a friend. Not a colleague. A woman holding his hand. Laughing. Looking at him like he was the only man alive. I froze mid-bite. My fork clinked against the plate. My brother noticed. Asked what was wrong. That's him, I muttered. That's the guy Carla's been seeing. Everyone turned. Craig's wife actually gasped. The guy didn't notice us. He was too busy showing off a wine list and pretending he was James Bond. The woman with him? She looked familiar. It took me a second, but then I recognized her from one of the Instagram photos. She wasn't just someone random. She was in the background, blurry, cropped halfway out, standing behind Carla at that rooftop bar. She wasn't a stranger. She was his girlfriend. Or maybe his real girlfriend. My stomach twisted. Because that meant Carla wasn't just betraying me. She was being played too. I didn't confront him. Not then. Not in that restaurant. Not while he was charming some new woman over a bottle of overpriced Pinot Noir, acting like he hadn't already lit my marriage on fire. I just sat there in silence, my brother and his wife watching me like I might explode, and I kept thinking one thing over and over. She really thought she was special to him. Carla, for all her cleverness, all her polished speeches and rehearsed tears, had no idea that the man she was risking everything for was already playing the same game, just on a different board. It wasn't revenge that crept up on me. It was clarity. I didn't need to destroy her. She'd done that herself. But if she was still lying to me, and worse, still lying to herself, I needed to break the illusion. So I made a plan. The next morning, I messaged him. I had found his professional email linked to a business article Carlo once bragged about, something about strategic partnerships and marketing growth. Whatever. I didn't care about his title. I just sent a short message. We've never been properly introduced. You've met my wife. Maybe it's time we talked. He replied 2 hours later. No apology. No denial. Just a smug little line. Didn't expect to hear from you. Meet? We agreed on a neutral location. Coffee shop. Public. I didn't trust myself not to lose it in private. When I arrived, he was already seated. Polished. Calm. Wearing that same expression I'd seen from across the bar. The one that said he always got away with it. I sat down. He smiled like we were two guys comparing notes. So this is awkward. I didn't smile back. Do you always go after married women, or was mine just convenient? He shrugged. I didn't know at first. She didn't mention you for a while. Until she got serious. Those words hit harder than I expected. Serious. She wasn't just fooling around. She was making plans. You know, she thought you two were going somewhere, I said. He actually laughed. That's on her. I leaned forward. So you're just playing her? His tone went cold. I'm not here for drama, man. We had fun. It's over. That part made me freeze. Over. He nodded. Yeah. She got clingy. Thought I'd leave my girlfriend. Not happening. I blinked slowly. So you're done with her? She doesn't know it yet, he said. I figured she'd get the message when I stopped answering. I sat back, stunned. Carla was still texting me, still asking for a second chance, still clinging to this idea that she could leave the wreckage behind and drag me back into some fantasy of redemption. And the man she risked everything for had already walked away. I didn't reply. I didn't threaten him. I didn't punch him, even though part of me wanted to. I just stood up, looked him in the eye, and said, "You deserve each other, and you're both going to realize what you lost too late." Then I left, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel powerless, because now I had the upper hand, and I knew exactly what to do next. I didn't respond to her messages that night, or the next, not when she said she needed closure, not when she begged to explain properly, not when she asked if we could just talk like adults. I didn't need any of it. I had already seen everything I needed to, not just the lies, but the truth beneath them. She hadn't just cheated on me. She'd traded me in for a fantasy, and the fantasy had dumped her without even saying goodbye. 3 days later, I got a knock at the door. Not a text, not a call, a knock. It was her. No makeup, no earrings, hoodie, hair tied up in a way I hadn't seen since before the Instagram perfect version of our marriage took over. She looked like the real Carla, the one I'd fallen in love with. But that version was already gone. What stood in front of me now was just someone trying to crawl out of the mess she'd made. I know everything, I said before she could speak. I met him. Her breath caught. She didn't even pretend to be surprised. I thought he loved me, she whispered, eyes down. I waited for the usual theatrics, the tears, the trembling voice, but none came. She looked exhausted, not dramatic, just defeated. I know you did, I said. But he didn't. And you know what? Neither did you. That finally got her to look up. You didn't love me, I continued. Because if you did, you wouldn't have replaced me while I was still here. You wouldn't have made me feel invisible for months, then expect me to stay the moment you felt alone. She tried to reach for my hand. I stepped back. I forgave you before, I said. Over little things. Lies about where you were, what you were doing. I told myself you were tired, stressed, overwhelmed. I gave you every excuse to be better. I paused. You never wanted better. You just wanted different. I made a mistake, she whispered. I shook my head. No, you made choices. And I finally made one too. I handed her a small envelope. Inside it was a letter I'd written the night before. It wasn't angry. It wasn't cruel. It was just closure. Quiet, final, honest. I'm not staying in a house filled with ghosts, I said. The lease ends next month. I've already signed a new one across town. You can have what's left of this place. She opened the envelope with shaking hands and read the last line out loud. This is where we end, and I begin again. She looked up at me, tears finally forming. I didn't wait for more. I closed the door behind her and locked it. Not out of spite, out of peace. 2 weeks later, I moved into a modest one-bedroom apartment near the lake. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The first night I sat on the small balcony, sipping coffee I made for myself, I didn't feel broken. I felt clean. The kind of clean that only comes after you stop dragging your heart through the dirt to keep someone else's shoes dry. Carla texted once after that. I hope you're okay. I never replied. Because I am. And for the first time in years, she doesn't get to be part of that.